The man whose life I destroyed still thinks I'm a good person. That's the part that hurts the most. My name is Lucas. I'm 46 years old. From the outside, I look like a normal man with a stable job, a quiet apartment, and a routine that doesn't attract attention. People describe me as calm, reliable, and polite. If they only knew. I didn't ruin someone's life with violence. I didn't ruin it with betrayal. I ruined it with silence. It started with a car accident. Not a dramatic one. No explosions. No screaming crowds. Just a rainy evening, a slippery road, and one moment of fear. I was driving home from work when the traffic light turned yellow. I should have slowed down. I didn't. A motorcycle crossed the intersection. I saw it too late. The impact wasn't loud, but it was final. The rider flew off the bike and hit the pavement. I stopped the car. I got out. He was alive. Barely. His leg was twisted in a way legs shouldn't twist. His helmet was cracked. His phone lay a few meters away, the screen shattered. People gathered. Someone called an ambulance. And in that chaos, I made a decision that would follow me for the rest of my life. I noticed something. The motorcycle had crossed on red. Legally, it wasn't my fault. But morally I had been speeding. I could have stopped. I looked at the broken phone on the road. Then at my own. Then at the man bleeding in the rain. And I stayed silent. When the police arrived, I told them only what protected me. He crossed on red. I had no time to react. I followed the rules. It wasn't a lie. It just wasn't the whole truth. The man survived. But he didn't walk again. His name was Daniel. A construction worker. Married. One young daughter. The accident ended his career. And changed his family's life forever. The investigation concluded I wasn't responsible. Legally. The relief I felt was immediate. And poisonous. I told myself I had done nothing wrong. The system had spoken. The law had decided. But every night, my conscience replayed the moment when I chose silence over honesty. Daniel never accused me. He believed the report. He believed I had done everything I could. That trust became my punishment. Months later, I saw him again. Not in court. In a supermarket. He was in a wheelchair. His wife pushed him. Their daughter walked beside them, holding a toy. He recognized me. "Hey," he said with a tired smile. "You were the driver, right?" I nodded. "Thank you for stopping," he said. "Some people wouldn't have." The words felt heavier than any insult could have. Because I hadn't stopped as a good man. I had stopped as a scared one. His life had changed forever. Mine had continued normally. That imbalance followed me everywhere. I started noticing things differently. Every laugh felt borrowed. Every moment of peace felt undeserved. My friends talked about promotions and vacations. I thought about a man who would never work again. My family asked why I seemed distant. I didn't know how to explain that part of me was still standing in the rain on that road. Daniel's wife eventually contacted me. Not to accuse. To ask for help. The insurance wasn't enough. The medical bills were endless. They needed support. I helped. Not because I was generous. Because I was guilty. Money became my way of staying silent. Each transfer felt like a quiet confession I was too afraid to say out loud. Daniel thanked me every time. That made it worse. He believed I was kind. The truth was uglier. I was protecting myself. Years passed. Daniel's daughter grew up watching her father in a wheelchair. I grew older watching myself in the mirror, wondering when my reflection had started to look like someone I didn't respect. One evening, Daniel called me. I don't know how to thank you, he said. You've helped us so much. My throat tightened. You don't owe me anything, I replied. That was the only honest sentence I had spoken in years. I had saved myself that night. And destroyed someone else's life. Not with intention. With fear. The worst part of moral failure isn't punishment. It's living a normal life afterward. Because every normal moment feels like a lie you're not allowed to forget. After the accident, my life didn't fall apart. That was the cruelest part. Everything stayed normal. I went to work. I paid my bills. I met friends for coffee. I laughed at jokes that weren't funny. The world treated me like an innocent man. Only I knew how fragile that innocence was. Every time I passed an intersection, my hands tightened on the steering wheel. Rain became my enemy. The sound of tires on wet asphalt brought back the image of Daniel's broken body on the road. People say time heals. Time doesn't heal what you never confront. I kept helping Daniel's family. Quietly. Consistently. Not as a hero, but as a man trying to silence his conscience. Medical bills. Home adjustments. Physical therapy. Each payment felt like a moral installment. As if I could slowly buy my way out of the truth. But the truth doesn't accept money. It accepts only courage. Daniel invited me to his home one evening. I want my daughter to know who helped us, he said. I almost refused. Not because I was busy. Because I was afraid. Their apartment was small. Warm. Filled with toys, photos, and the quiet atmosphere of people who had learned to live with loss. Daniel sat in his wheelchair near the window. His wife offered me tea. His daughter showed me her drawings. This is Daddy before the accident, she said, pointing at a picture where he stood tall, strong, smiling. My chest tightened. She didn't know the man in the drawing had lost his future because of a moment I refused to fully own. During dinner, Daniel spoke calmly about his life now. The limitations. The pain. The adjustments. I try to stay positive, he said. My family needs me. His strength made my silence feel heavier. At one point, he looked at me and said, "You could have driven away." Many people would have. But you didn't. He raised his cup. To decent people. I raised mine too. My hand was shaking. Decency isn't about staying. It's about telling the truth when it hurts. And I had failed that test. After that night, the weight inside me grew. Not with fear of consequences. With awareness. I started questioning everything. Was I really a good man or just a lucky one? Good people face their mistakes. Lucky people hide behind technicalities. I had been lucky. My friends noticed my distance. You're overthinking, one of them said. The guy crossed on red. End of story. Legally, yes. Morally, no. Speeding had stolen Daniel's ability to work. Silence had stolen his chance at justice. One evening, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror and said it out loud for the first time. I was speeding. The words felt heavy. Not because they were illegal. Because they were honest. My life began to feel like a performance I could no longer maintain. Every time Daniel thanked me, I felt smaller. Every time his daughter smiled at me, I felt like a fraud. Guilt doesn't shout. It isolates. I stopped socializing. Stopped enjoying simple things. Stopped believing my own reflection. My conscience had become my constant companion. One night, Daniel called me in tears. They say I might never regain full control of my hands, he said. I'm trying to stay strong, but it's hard. I listened in silence. What I wanted to say was simple. I'm sorry for everything. But that sentence meant more than emotional comfort. It meant responsibility. And responsibility meant consequences. So I stayed quiet. Again. After the call, I sat alone in my apartment, lights off, phone in my hand. I realized something terrifying. I wasn't afraid of prison. I was afraid of losing the version of myself that people respected. I had built a life on the idea that I was a decent man. The truth threatened that image. And I wasn't sure I was brave enough to let it fall. But the image was already cracking. My dreams were filled with rain and flashing lights. Not police lights. Conscience lights. The ones that never turn off. I started writing everything down. Not for the authorities. For myself. The speed. The impact. The silence. Seeing the words on paper made the truth unavoidable. Daniel had paid for my fear. Not legally. Existentially. His life became smaller. Mine stayed comfortable. That imbalance became unbearable. I asked myself a question that wouldn't leave me alone. If my daughter were in his place, would I accept silence as justice? The answer was immediate. No. Justice isn't about what the law allows. It's about what your conscience demands. And my conscience was no longer quiet. The problem with telling the truth too late is that it costs more than telling it early. But silence was costing me something too. My self-respect. My peace. My identity. I wasn't living anymore. I was surviving my own secret. And secrets, when they grow too heavy, either break you, or force you to speak. I felt the moment approaching. The moment when comfort would no longer be enough. The moment when I would have to choose. Between protecting my life. Or protecting my soul. And for the first time since the accident, I wasn't sure which one I wanted to save. The night I decided to tell the truth, nothing dramatic happened. No storm. No sirens. No sudden moment of courage. Just silence. The kind of silence that feels heavier than noise. I sat in my car outside Daniel's apartment building, watching the lights in the windows. Somewhere inside, he was living a life reshaped by my choices. His daughter was probably doing homework. His wife was probably tired. And he was probably fighting pain most people never see. All because of a moment I refused to fully own. I didn't go inside. Not yet. First, I needed to face myself. I drove to the same intersection where the accident had happened. The traffic lights changed color like they always had. Cars passed. People crossed the street. Life had moved on. Only my conscience hadn't. I stood on the sidewalk, rain starting to fall again, and whispered the words I had avoided for years. I was speeding. No one heard me. But I did. And for the first time, the truth felt heavier than fear. I realized something important. I wasn't protecting Daniel by staying silent. I was protecting the version of myself that looked good in the mirror. That version had become my prison. The next morning, I went to the police station. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. I need to report something about an accident from years ago, I said. The officer looked confused. Legally, the case is closed, he replied. I know, I said. This isn't about legality. It was about responsibility. I told them everything. The speed. The fear. The silence. The truth I had buried. There were no dramatic reactions. Just paperwork. Questions. Notes. The law had already made its decision. But I hadn't. I didn't walk out feeling relieved. I walked out feeling exposed. Honesty doesn't make you lighter immediately. It makes you vulnerable. Next, I went to Daniel's apartment. This time, I didn't hesitate. He opened the door with the same tired smile. Lucas, he said. Come in. We sat in silence for a moment. His wife brought tea. His daughter waved from her room. This wasn't a courtroom. This was harder. Daniel, I said quietly, I need to tell you something I should have told you years ago. He listened. I told him about the speeding. About the fear. About how I had chosen silence over honesty. I didn't justify myself. I didn't defend my choices. I just told the truth. When I finished, the room felt smaller. Not because of anger. Because of reality. Daniel didn't shout. He didn't cry. He just looked at his hands for a long time. So my life changed because you were afraid, he said calmly. Yes. That word hurt more than anything else I had ever said. His wife stood up and left the room. His daughter closed her door. Silence filled the space between us. You helped us, he said slowly. But you also took something from us. I know. And now? Now I stop hiding. He nodded. Not forgiveness. Understanding. Sometimes, understanding is the most painful form of truth. I didn't become a hero that day. I didn't fix what I had broken. I didn't give Daniel back his legs. But I stopped lying. And sometimes, that's the only redemption available. After that, my life became smaller. People saw me differently. Some friends left. Some conversations ended. But something inside me finally felt aligned. Not with comfort. With conscience. I started volunteering at a rehabilitation center. Not as punishment. As presence. I listened to people who had lost things. Limbs. Careers. Relationships. Loss teaches you what matters. And what matters isn't reputation. It's responsibility. I still think about Daniel often. Not with guilt. With respect. He lives a life he didn't choose. And I live with the knowledge that my choices shaped it. That knowledge doesn't crush me anymore. It guides me. Because living with truth, even when it's painful, feels lighter than living comfortably in a lie. I didn't save myself that night on the road. I postponed my humanity. And humanity always collects its debt. Not through punishment. Through conscience. The accident didn't ruin my life. My silence did. And breaking that silence didn't make me free. It made me real. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stop protecting the version of yourself that looks good, and start protecting the version that can live with the truth.